Good afternoon, Anita, and thank you so much for coming to do this interview with us this afternoon. Delighted to see you here in Dundalk. Anita, can you tell me please, where do you come from in Ireland? Where's your home?
A place called Ballyfeeny, Strokestown, County Roscommon.
Okay. And how did it happen that you went to school with St. Louis?
Well, in these days, very few people went to school, to secondary school.
Yeah.
So I was the eldest girl of the family. So there was a big meeting, family meeting, where would this important person go to school. And my dad always said, well, whatever your mother says. But that particular day he didn't. He pricked up his ears because I heard Kilshamar, County Mayo. I was to go to school to County Mayo. And that's how I read it.
That was it.
Yes.
And how did you like school in Kilshamar?
I loved school in Kilshamar.
Yeah.
Naturally I was lonely.
Yeah.
We're a long way from home, and these days there weren't any brilliant communications or phone calls or anything like that. So you just had your weekly letter from home. But otherwise, I loved the place. I loved my companions there. I liked the nuns. And I think I felt, maybe the most thing I felt attracted to there, maybe that brought it, about my thoughts of religion, was really, I loved the days of adoration. You used to hear that, there was the candles and the lights and the nuns in white robes, everybody. So I suppose that in its own way it had its impact on me.
So how did you then decide? You decided to join them?
I decided to join them.
Yeah.
I just went home, thought well over it, because as the eldest of the family, and my eldest brother had died a few years before that, I felt kind of, well, I should stay and help them for a while. But for once they felt once they knew how I felt and what I would like best, there was no problem. So that's how I applied.
And how did you find the novitiate in Monaghan? What was that like for you?
Very tough.
Yeah.
In these days it was tough. But we went in with the intention of being nuns, and I wanted to be a nun. And the camaraderie in the there were about 10 or 12 of us. So in ways, it was tough for all of us. And just part of the life of that time. So that's how it went.
Good.
We were lucky enough in this that I had Mother Teresa as novice mistress. And even though times were tough, she had a warm heart. And a heart can carry a long way.
Yeah, good. Yeah. So where did you go then when you finished the novitiate, Anita? What happened next?
2 days after we professed, we were all looking forward to going on holidays. But an urgent message came from Clones. Her sister was very ill there. School was opening. They'd like someone to replace. So I went to Clones, and I was there for 17 years.
Before you trained to be a teacher or anything?
I was trained after 3 years there.
Okay.
I was trained.
Okay. And where did you go for your training?
My training was in Carysford, but my home was always back to Clones. So that's why I counted the whole 17 years together.
Okay. And then what happened after 17 years in Clones?
One day I got a letter from Mother Columbourne. Would I like to go to, or would I be ready to go to Africa? That she saw my name among the, at that time, the volunteers. Yeah. And I can tell you, I refrained from volunteering for a long time. And then suddenly, Mother Magella, who died after a number of years there, she didn't last out her time as Mother Gerald, and Mother Columbourne was back again. By that time I had my name in, so she must have put her eye or her finger or something on the name.
And how did you feel when you got that, when you were asked to go?
Delighted then.
Oh, yeah.
Delighted, yeah. Because even though the journey was long, and it was a long way from home, and in these days, yes, I got the privilege of going home before I retired. But that would be my first visit home from my entrance.
So then you had to prepare. Did you have to make habits or white habits or what? Or who went with you? Did you travel on your own or what? Or?
I'm trying to think back, but I think it was Sister Lisa that travelled. And she was, like myself, she was new to the fields as well. And she went to the north, and I went to the north too, but she went to Kano, and I went from Kano on to Jos.
So Jos was your first
Jos was
appointment?
my first mission.
And what was that like? Is this secondary school now? You had been teaching in a primary school?
Yes,
No?
but it was only in its first year. It started 6 months before. So initially, the first years, we all helped to teach the first years. That was it. In fact, I remember that as an easy year because, in comparison to my full day's work in primary school for years at home, there were three of us there,
Yeah.
Patricia and Galgani and myself,
Sure.
and we all helped to teach the first years. So just a small group.
It sounds like you were happy there.
I was very happy.
Very happy. And then what happened?
And one day, 15th of August, I got a letter in the post. No, I didn't get a letter. Then we say the house got a letter on the post, bringing the changes. And my name was on the changes for Akure. That was at first I heard of that. But there was a letter enclosed from Mother Compon asking me to go and that they were opening up a new novitiate down there.
And that was the first you knew about it?
That's the first I knew about it. I knew that in the north, about 2 to 3 years before, while I was there, one had opened in Zonkwa. And they were just in the very early stages of girls joining. That is where Dorothy, you all know Dorothy York, and Dorothy's our staunch girl from the north, who's now, I suppose, our oldest St. Louis sister in Africa.
So you moved down to Akure then?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what was in Akure at the time? Were there other sisters there?
Yes. There were 3 sisters there.
And they were involved in the school?
In the community, they were involved in the school.
And you?
The day that I moved down to Akure was an interesting day because that day they were only opening the novitiate building. And Bishop and all the priests and all the sisters of the diocese were there. And when I arrived, I think I was met by Sister Florence. And Florence brought me to Adolf at night. There was nobody in the house, absolutely empty. Any hands that were to spare, they were all in Akure, scrubbing, cleaning, anything they could do to get the house ready for the next day. Because the novitiate wasn't really finished, just, I suppose, finished enough that the rooms that were ready, so many rooms were ready.
And you moved in there?
I moved in there.
And was there another sister with you in the novitiate? Or?
No. 2 postulants.
Two
That's
postulants,
Stabilisti.
right.
Stabilisti had been training for some time.
Okay. So there you were, with 2 postulants in there, and no training whatever as a novice mistress,
No
which
training.
you were asked to.
Nothing but what we all had, thank God, in Ireland.
Yeah.
At least I had, and you had, Maud.
Yeah.
We had great parents, a great Christian home, and I had a very good experience in Kilshma and in my novitiate.
And in Jos.
So I brought that.
Yeah, your experience, that was the greatest gift. So at that stage, Anita, those early postulants, were they sisters of St. Louis as we are now, or were they what's called African sisters of St. Louis?
They were, from the beginning, they were African sisters of St. Louis.
Yes.
Because they were founded by the diocese,
Yes.
and their superior would have been the bishop of the diocese.
Okay.
That was what was done there at the time.
They were a diocesan congregation.
They were diocesan.
But you were to
Yeah.
teach them the
Us.
scriptures.
In their eyes, Mother Columbanus was the Mother General. They were dressed as we were dressed. They had a constitution based on our constitutions. So, as years went by, as you know, they began to question themselves: who are we? Are we African sisters, or do we belong to the Irish sister? So that's how it is.
So what was it like for you in those early days, living with these young African sisters?
I suppose I went to do it. I was happy to do it. I was happy with them. The convent was beside me, and the sisters there were very good to me. Good. And that's one thing I'd say all that time. Vatican II had started. Our bishop went to, for the first 3 years I was there, and the Jesuits had set up a very good pastoral institute. It wasn't called a pastoral institute, but very good lectures took place there. Sisters went to it.
In Ibadan,
there was good correspondence courses. There was everything to update you on the Vatican Council. And that's what I got. I wasn't asked to do anything by myself and the sisters. All the St. Louis sisters down there, anyone that could help, and anyone that had any say. I remember Mr. Faulkner had done something in Maynooth in theology before she came out. Anne Marie came out laden with something else. Augustine was there with the very best of music and the very best of singing. And her hour with the novices was never neglected, no matter what she had to do. So that I had wonderful help, wonderful support in every way.
And looking back on all of that now, how do you feel in your heart? What your massive
I feel so grateful in my heart and so thankful to God. But all the time I saw Providence looking after us. Providence looked after our pioneers who came to Ireland. Providence looked after me all the way. All that help that I got, I was carried along. And they got, I remember, which is funny looking back at it now, I remember getting a present of a typewriter. And what would never be done, I suppose, in our day, the postulants all learned to type. That was, when you see you have only 2, then you might have 3. And in this day of computer age, so we're ready for computers. So, in that, I smile at that nowadays when I think of it. Now, by the way, they did go to school.
Okay.
Oh yes, they did. And they would have perhaps 2 years at least each before they finished their leaving cert. What was correspondent GCE.
Right.
And they finished, and then they moved to Aquinas, where they had an A-level college, and they finished there. Any of them that finished.
So when you look back now,
bit by bit they realised
they
really didn't understand the celibacy or vocation. There were no, let's say, African sisters in their roundabout them. They didn't see them. They were getting good education.
So there were huge challenges for you.
There were huge challenges. Because if I can tell funny stories, you tell. I remember a man coming to me one day and saying, well, he's bringing his daughter, but in his heart he was bringing her to be educated. And then, when she was finished, she'd come out and she'd born, as they called it. And that was the
mentality.
And of course, the Reverend Fathers who were I should have mentioned them, see, the local fathers and the local sisters, and that whoever they were, there could be OLA, there could be MMN, everybody was happy together, everybody helped each other, as you know, on the missions. So it was a great spirit all the time.
Wonderful.
So I must say that your Providence helped you along all the time.
And now, when you started off, there were 2 sisters, you said, and now you look out at Nigeria and Ghana and see that there's well over 100 and that they've gone off to Ethiopia and Republic of Benin and other places. How do you feel about them now? You look at that and think you were there at the beginning. What does it feel like?
I suppose if you could use the word proud,
Yeah.
you'd be very proud. But again, it's thankful I am. Thankful to Providence and thankful to the sisters. And Mother Columbus, I've great memories of her.
Yeah.
She really, she had the missions at heart all the time.
That's a great
I don't
story.
like mentioning too many people, but there's so many people you could put. Mother Augustine, or Sister Augustine, or she's my friend, who died there a year or so ago. She was a staunch support all the time.
So how many years were you there, Anita, in the novitiate?
33 in the end.
In the novitiate?
Oh, not in the novitiate.
How many?
Oh no,
Yeah.
or 7.
7. And who?
Wait now,
Who?
no, sorry, I was there 11.
11.
I was there 11. And then I realised Martinian and I think it was Mayfor Sullivan, they had just done courses to take on that kind of job.
Yeah.
So
They took over.
I was very handy,
Yeah.
very, very, very happy to hand over to them.
And what happened to you next?
I came home for what I thought was a holiday, or it's meant to be a holiday, but there was a project on in Ireland at the time called Mission Awareness,
Okay.
and there was a representative from every congregation. Now, when I say every, it could be 9, 10,
Yeah.
11.
Mission congregation.
So we went around the country, meeting them, having meetings like in different parishes. Some of the priests would make you very welcome.
Sure.
I suppose they all of them did, but some of them maybe more so than others. And our duty was like, not alone were they helping the foreign missions, but they in themselves were missionaries to get across to them their missions in life. So after that, then they'd be amused. I went to America for the course in formation and spiritual direction.
Good for you.
So then, when I returned after that, I was in Ibadan for a number of years. I was in Akiti first, then Ibadan.
Teaching.
Teaching, and with the spiritual direction, that awareness, like sometimes I would do short retreats or be available for the things that other people were available for when I did it.
Yeah.
But I was teaching. Now mostly, I mostly taught religion.
Okay.
And I think I met you yourself on Roche. And I was librarian, if you remember, in Kano.
God bless you. You had such a checkered career. It's unbelievable.
It was a great experience.
Wonderful experience. So where did you go? You ended up in Ireland. What happened? How did you get back here?
You reached, when I was in my 70s, I was in Kano.
Yeah.
And Kano is, as you know, at an airport with a lot of sisters coming, staying overnight, hospitality. And I noticed many of the older sisters were going home frequently because they needed medical attention. And I thought over it and I said, well, I should go home and I can do some little thing to help at home first. And also, I just feel it's too much for the small number of sisters on the ground here to be going home when somebody's sick. And I don't know whether I put in that right or not.
No, you are.
But I had that in my mind.
Yeah.
And I saw these sisters maybe going home, bringing somebody home. After a few months they might come back again, but they might go home again another month. And I saw the rhythm of that.
You didn't want to be a burden on anybody.
In Kano,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying anyone is a burden, but I wanted my own, I suppose, to.
Yeah.
And I got, then so I wrote to, I think Anne Kavanagh, I say, because I'd like to mention her for this. I wrote to Anne Kavanagh and said about it. And that was one of the nicest letters ever I got back. She wrote back to welcome me, but to say I was not to do it in a hurry. I was to take another year, let people know I was coming home. and come home. And by the time that year was up, I was ready to come home.
Wonderful.
It was. So I'd just like to mention it because she mightn't know the good she did that day, but she
It
did.
meant a lot to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you came home, and then
And I'm here since.
you didn't just
I'm nearly here longer than I was anywhere else. So,
What was it like to come home after all those years? You said 33, was it, in Nigeria?
I suppose what I've just told you
Yeah.
was the help that emotionally I was ready to come home.
Yeah.
And it was great after these years. By now, it's well past Vatican II. No problem to go home to my own home. No problem to see my sisters. By that time, my brother had just died. See my sisters, and thank God they're all there still. And no problem to get to know my nieces and nephews. And all that was great. And see the grands that have come into the world. So that's all that.
But here in Dundalk, I'm just thinking.
Here in Dundalk, I did adult education. I did a course on adult education. So I did some adult literacy teaching. And I did what I would love to do. I did a lot. But Claire Mulhern was very good at visiting the old and the sick. Here, she knew them. So I did a lot of visitation with Claire.
And you've watched
Did any other few housekeeping jobs that were on in between.
No doubt. And you've seen others go. You've seen Patricia Maloney go to God, and Nuala and Carmen, all of whom you know.
Yeah.
And here you are, at 98 years of age, next birthday.
That's a break, all right. It's a break with the people that are of my age and people that are on the missions with me.
Yeah.
But I'm getting every night, every kindness I possibly could get here, not alone from the sisters, but from the lay staff. And we have a prayer meeting still going, and I joined it here. And people are so kind and so good.
Well, that's because you were. I think, Anita, you're an inspiration to us all.
Perhaps the hardest thing now, as you grow old, and I've just prepared all of it, one of the hardest thing is your own sisters and brothers, and in my case, my sister, they're growing old at the same time. And suddenly, where we used to go, I went with my sisters to Lourdes, and I went to Fatima, and I went to a number of other places, and they were young and I was younger. Now, it's just different. We're all getting ready.
On a different journey.
We're getting ready
for the final pilgrimage.
The final report.
I couldn't help but think of you at Mass in there today when the first reading was St. Paul, and he said, I've done the work you've asked me to do. So I think, Anita, you surely you have done it.
Well,
so
yes. Nothing about other have done.
What advice would you give to young people like me and our camera person here, Dorothy? What advice would you give us?
Giving Dorothy, giving you, that would be laughable now. But anyway, advice is be yourselves.
Yeah.
And like trust in Providence.
Right. Anita, thank you so much. God bless. And may you live to see the 100 and many more years. God bless.